So starting the test drive in this Blazer EV, I do feel like GM did a few things. I shouldn't say a few things. I feel like they did a lot of things right with this model in particular. The biggest issue is going to be the price as of now for me. I just think 58 grand for this is pretty steep. But honestly, as I think about it, I mean, a lot of the other EVs that have come out have been around this price point, the Model Y when it first came out. Just for something that's got a bigger battery, all-wheel drive, things of that nature. It's not a bad price, it's just, I think, expensive for what this is. And maybe it's because it has the Blazer nameplate, but I don't know. I think it's just because EVs are just so expensive. Everything just is a lot of money. But you do get good range here with 279 miles. You have that all-wheel drive capability again. And of course, the instant torque you get from an EV. So we're gonna put our foot down here. So great power. And with this view here, I love how it's showing how many kilowatts I'm using, whether I'm putting my foot to the floor or cruising, and it just kind of lets you know how much energy you burn when you put your foot down. I was showing like 230, 240 kilowatts, and then cruising here at 75, I'm only burning 35. So yeah, it's interesting. And this is a pretty cool feature that I have not seen before. I think this is very, very important because you can actually see how much energy you're using, how efficient you're being, and it just makes it feel that much more like a real vehicle, if that makes sense. Now, wind noise is not bad at all, and the ride quality is pretty stellar for this to be an EV. Probably one of the better riding EVs I've been in. And I drove the RS trim level of one of these, and it was just a bit more shaky, I think, just because it had the bigger wheels. But this is a pretty impressive EV as of now, just in terms of the driving dynamics, all of the features you get here. And as I drive it more and more, the more I started thinking, you know what, maybe this isn't a bad price for 58 grand. So again, as I'm driving this, I do think this is a pretty good vehicle for the money. As I've kind of, again, gotten to know it, sitting here behind the steering wheel, just seeing all that's gone into this, I am impressed. There are just a few issues that I have. One of them being not having dual zone automatic climate control. That's just, I don't get that at all. And then just not having the wireless CarPlay, Android Auto compatibility. That was something else that really, those are the two big things that irk me about this vehicle. But everything else is very good. Probably about a 9.5 out of 10. The performance is decent. It doesn't throw you back in the seat like a Tesla does, but it does accelerate very quickly. Again, 279 miles per charge is good. And just even the places where they weren't cheap, the steering wheel is nice and thick. I like that. It doesn't feel like I'm about to break it in half because it's so skinny. The padding is very good, very comfortable, and of course you can heat that again. It has a very futuristic look, and I think one of the places where GM knocked it out of the park with this is it has a feel of a Model Y in terms of the technology, the futuristic looks of everything, from the dash to the center stack, everything. But it also makes sense. I don't have to go through a bunch of controls to get to certain things like I would in a Tesla. Everything's right here in front of me. So I mean, it is a good vehicle. Just a bit hefty, I think, for a Chevy when you could get a Cadillac for a little bit more. So really, that's the biggest competition that the Blazer EV has, is the Lyriq. Now, I do think this is more of a practical option when you're thinking about how much a typical vehicle costs now. To be under $60,000, I can't really complain with all that you get. Again, it's just one of those things where I'm like, it's a Blazer and I'm paying almost $60,000. But you have to think, these EVs are very expensive just because the battery costs so much money. These are meant to be more of a treat as opposed to something that's practical, even though long term they are a more practical option, and I know that from personal experience. Now you can probably get one of these pre-owned for a good price, because they're just not holding their value as they should, because we don't really have a gauge on how long these will last before we have to have expensive and extensive repairs done to them. But as of now, I'm pretty impressed by this. I like this trim, the 2LT loaded out. I like everything that you get here. And I especially like this Galaxy Gray Metallic. So with all that being said, this will bring me to the end of my review of this 2024 Chevy Blazer EV LT.